Hi, this is Mark Allen, 6-time Ironman Triathlon World Champion and author of The Art of Competition. Do you want to transform your entire experience in the sport of triathlon? If you do, come put that transformation in place at the Triathlon Research High Performance Camp in Boulder, Colorado from August 25th through 29th. I'll be there for the closing day of this amazing camp, and I can't tell you how excited I am to be a part of it. I'll be presenting some thought-provoking insights from my most recent book, The Art of Competition, where I will show you how you can get more out of the sport and how you can transfer those principles to all areas of your life. I'll also be there for the entire day's worth of workouts for the grand finale of your 5 days exploring and experiencing new levels in your triathlon performance. If you sign up for the Triathlon Research Camp, you'll get a free copy of my book, which I'll be happy to sign for you at the dinner that we'll all share together on the closing day. The Triathlon Research Camp is going to be incredible. To take part in this once-in-a-lifetime experience, go to triathlonresearch.org/camp. But please hurry, as spots are going to be limited so that we can provide you with the best possible personal coaching experience.
Welcome to Triathlon Research, the podcast that brings together the world's best triathlon coaches, athletes, equipment experts, and medical professionals to get you the right information that you need to race past your personal best and get more enjoyment out of your triathlon journey. Triathlon Research, where we teach you how to train smart. Here's your host, Suzanne Atkinson, MD, founder and head coach of Steel City Endurance.
Hello, podcast listener. This is Sam Cook, the founder of Triathlon Research, here with my co-host, Suzanne Atkinson. We're actually sitting here together in the Boulder Hotel, Boulder, Colorado. The travels around the world for me have taken me to Boulder, while Suzanne also is here for Bobby McGee's Run Transformation Camp, which is a great opportunity for us to talk about one of our favorite topics, which is camps and the power of immersive learning experiences. And there's a couple reasons why we love it so much, both because of our backgrounds, different careers that we've had, but also because of the Triathlon Research Camp that's coming up. But with that, I'm just going to say, hey, Suzanne, and let her say hello to everyone.
Hi, Sam. It's really great to be here with you. When I saw you in person, in the flesh, and was actually able to get my hands on your flesh and squeeze you and make sure that you were actually here with me, that was pretty cool. It's nice to be in the same place with you for once.
Yeah, we're such virtual pals, and I think we've met maybe 3 or 4 times in person for various reasons. I think so. Yeah,
it's nice being here. I've come to Boulder a lot for different things, but every time that I come, I'm here for a specific occasion. I've never come to Boulder just to vacation, and so being here now for this camp is pretty exciting for me because the people that are here, I've never met them in person before, but a lot of the names are from podcast listeners or webinar attendees, and I recognize their names from Facebook and from the chat roll. And so I've communicated with a lot of these folks that are here before, and it's really exciting. They know more about me than I know about them, so I'm finally getting a chance to sit down and talk to people and find out more about them, where they live, where they work, and why they're in triathlon. So it's really nice.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people come up to me at the camp and say hello to me as though I should know exactly who they are, and they have this shadowy resemblance to this Facebook profile photo or something somewhere where I've seen them, or a Gmail profile where I might get an email from someone who responds to emails. And I think one of the really interesting things that I found talking to people, a lot of the Triathlon Research audiences here at the Run Transformation Camp, is the difference between the silent majority who listens to you but never leaves any feedbacks, and then sometimes you get like a few people who get upset with you because I'm not the most detail-oriented person. I might mess up a link in an email or have a misspelling or something here or there, which annoys some people, and I totally get it. But I always like to joke that I make 10 times more mistakes than most people in this life because I try 100 times more things. So with Triathlon Research, I just really try and put out a lot of information and would rather go ugly early and, as they say in the Army, than let perfection be my enemy of production, I guess. So.
Yeah. Well, none of the people who are here at this camp seem to be bothered by any spelling mistakes or punctuation errors.
Well, we're working on it, and I have a bit of a staff and team that I'm developing to help me despite myself. But One of the things that was really interesting is how many people are enjoying listening to the podcast. And if you're a listener of the podcast, really, if you don't think you'll get a response, try me and send a response to one of the emails and tell me your feedback. But even more importantly, I would ask that specifically this show, we've had, I think every episode is getting over 1,000 downloads. So we're getting a lot of listens. But to move up the rankings in iTunes, I would just ask that if you're enjoying this show, stop your run right now and go to iTunes. And I'm just joking. Don't stop your run. But at the end of this show, when you get back, go to iTunes and just leave a review of your feedback. And I hope it's great feedback. But if you have any feedback on things we can improve, I'd hope you'd email me. But whatever the case is, leave a review, good and bad, on iTunes. And that will help us on the iTunes rankings and get this out to more triathletes, because I think that despite the fact that you're competing with them, I mean, it would be great if more people learned about this great information, because Suzanne, who's really doing most of the work on this, is just doing a fantastic job bringing in great people and getting the best information out of them. So I'd just like to thank you again, Suzanne, now that you're here in person for that. So
it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed all the interviews that I've done up to this point. And if you haven't listened to the prior ones yet, we've got some great stuff up there already with Bobby McGee, Jeff Boer, Kim Schwabenbauer, Ari Mizel. And, Kim is a personal friend of mine at home in Pittsburgh as well. And when the podcast came out, she found out about it, that it had been published, not because I notified her that it was up, but because a friend of hers had gotten a hold of it and listened to it and thought it was really good and emailed her about it. So, it's just a real motivating podcast, that one in particular. I've listened to it twice already since we recorded it, once in the raw version on my computer, and once while I was out for a run in the woods, a walk run in the woods in a park near my house. And boy, it's just so motivating. And I feel really blessed to be able to interview people like this and have opportunities to talk to people that otherwise they might not even return my emails.
Exactly. Well, I think everyone kind of hears or consumes their information in different ways. I personally, as many videos as I've put out and love the medium of videos, I'm a bit of a hamster when it comes to attention span. So I have a hard time watching a video online and not doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And podcast to me is really a special and my favorite medium of learning, because I'm usually out for a walk or out for a run or on a drive or somewhere where I'm just kind of forced to be with myself. And since that's so uncomfortable, I have to interrupt it with a podcast. So it's really a special medium. It's the hour a day or however long I spend listening to podcasts, sometimes many more hours than that I'm really alone with my thoughts. And I can't tell you how many times I've been on a run and heard something and thought of just a brand new strategy or idea, whether it's in life or business. And I actually just launched another podcast for a business research group. I'm getting pretty original with my naming of Triathlon Research and business research. Even the logo looks the same because I don't feel like coming up with new ideas. But I just did another podcast last night, and it really energized me because I feel like so blessed that I'm just getting to do these things and talk to people and actually get paid for it. Obviously this is a free podcast, but it's all part of putting out great information with the belief that at the end of the day, someone's going to come back and consume one of the paid products or information that we really believe in, which is how we fund Triathlon Research, by putting out information that we really believe is beneficial, and only that information. We're not just going to publish anything. And that's actually something that I would like to just talk about briefly before we get into the camp is, Triathlon Research is a bit of work, and I made quite a few mistakes. And the way we fund this is by not doing any ads. I don't believe in ads, just selling space on our show to equipment sponsors, but really just actually advertising and publishing great information that I actually believe in. Bobby McGee's Run Transformation, Total Immersion's TI Academy, and also going to be giving some information away on those who want to get more information from TriDot, also endurance films. And really it's just because I think that every one of the people that I've worked with and continue to work with actually has great information that can benefit the audience. And it might not be for you. I mean, there's there's 1,000 different coaching solutions out there. I would be just as quick to recommend, depending on their needs and what they want out of a coach, your coaching specifically if you weren't full. But, your associate coaches or people that you've trained are fantastic coaches. Jeff Boer has a different system, a different philosophy that works really well for some people on TriDot. And I think it's just really my vision for Triathlon Research as a company as it moves forward is to become a publishing house for only the great information that you let me put out, because I trust your opinion when it comes to a product or something, evaluating it. Is, Suzanne, would you recommend this to your sister-in-law or to your brother or whoever's doing triathlon? Because your sister-in-law is coming to our camp. And really just getting your feedback and we've discussed different people and whether we should publish our information, and we've gone back and forth. And so far, the ones that we are publishing right now on the Triathlon Research site and in the emails are the only ones that we feel in our conscience we want to recommend. And because we're recommending it, we're selling it for those people. Mm-hmm. And based on the revenue that we earn from making those sales, then we're able to continue to pay the bills, keep the lights on, and grow Triathlon Research, do podcasts, the live events, and all those take time, effort, and money with staff that helps put those on. I don't know if any of you have seen all the work that goes into those because you just consume them, but there's sound engineers and transcribers and copywriters and different people that put those events on, not to mention a bunch of time that Suzanne and I spend writing the emails and preparing for the show so that we can form those live online communities. So with that, I just wanted to dive right into camps, because we're here and we're doing a short impromptu podcast, and we're going to try and get some other people on here. Camps are absolutely an amazing way for people to learn and to become more, just take things to the next level. Because as triathletes, we're so busy, we steal a podcast here and a video here and a live hangout here, but we never get to immerse in things, even though we're training maybe 8 to 10 hours a week, sometimes many more. You're not immersed in triathlon. It's something that you fit into your overall life, whereas a camp, you're giving up everything and you're secluding yourself and you're just focusing on triathlon. So, Suzanne, talk a little bit more, because you're much more experienced on camps in the tri world. Mm-hmm. And talk a little bit more about what you love about camps and what you're getting out of this camp with Bobby McGee Run Transformation specifically.
Well, it's pretty interesting because I think I've mentioned this before. When I first graduated from college, the first job that I had was with Outward Bound. And Outward Bound is much more than a camp or camping, but you can think of it as an immersive experience where a group of people who don't know each other come together and are faced with both physical, emotional, and personal challenges. And the job of the instructor is to moderate all of that, teach them the skills that they need for the actual camping, expeditioning, traveling in the wilderness, cooking over a fire, building emergency shelters, that sort of thing. And through all that, as people have these experiences, they feel personal emotions connected to prior similar experiences, or they're able to make comparisons back to their real life. And hopefully they go home with a new set of skills and a better understanding about how they deal with stress and deal with certain things. And, I did that for 3 years right after college, and it really formed the basis for everything else that I've done in my professional life, including going to medical school and becoming a physician. It helped frame the way that I teach. It helped frame the way that I interact with people. So now as a triathlon coach, there was a period of time where I didn't do anything that was like camp, unless you consider medical school a really long, painful camp.
Exactly.
But, working with triathletes now and as an adult, much further on in my career. So as an adult now, being able to work with other adults who are taking time out of their busy lives and their professional careers and being away from their families sometimes, it's really nice. I feel like I've come full circle. The first thing I did out of college was an immersive experience that was life-changing for the people that attended. And being able now to work with adults who are looking to get something practical, they're willing to take time and spend the money on the travel, the lodging, the tuition. They are really invested in being here. And so I feel honored and obligated to try and deliver really high quality information and get to know people, get to know them as far as what's their running style, what's their swimming style, what practical feedback can I give them so that they can become better triathletes. And learning more about why they're doing triathlon so that I can target my feedback to their personal goals. Is it because they want to lose weight? Do they want to get healthier? Is it a diversion from some other stressful part of their life? It just ties everything together, and it's so similar to what I did when I was 23 years old that it's really neat to me to see that, people are still learning the same way. And those founders of Outward Bound who put that original model together, they really knew what they were doing. So I think I can learn a lot from that previous experience and bring that right back into triathlon.
Yeah, well, you say, it's funny, exactly what I was doing when I was 23 years old. And I look back at my career. When I was 23 years old, I was doing the exact same thing, which is I just graduated from West Point when I was 22. When I was 23, I moved to Germany, took over my first tank platoon, and like right at that exact same time in my life, I was leading a bunch of people. Now, our experiences weren't necessarily voluntary. In fact, a lot of soldiers went to great lengths sometimes to try and avoid these 30-day field exercises. You'd call them a big mega triathlon camp. But they all volunteered for the Army. So there was this element of, I think triathletes are the same way. They volunteer for triathlon, but then sometimes they have a hard time making themselves do some of the work. It was the same thing with my soldiers, was they'd all volunteered and wanted to be in the Army. And some of them had been a little bit voluntold by a judge or someone like that, right? But
same with Outward Bound.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but you come with people of all different varying levels of motivation, that some just absolutely love it and want to be there. Some are maybe told to go there due to some of their circumstances, but varying levels of discipline, varying levels of motivation. And what I loved about these training situations was we would be in the Army together for 12 months, but it was those 2 or 3 times a year, sometimes many more once the war started, those immersive training exercises that we'd get all of our work done. It was like, boy, if we could do this all the time, think how good we would be. And actually, there was a time when that's what we did all the time, and that's when we deployed to Iraq for 12 months straight. It was like a huge camp. I mean, that's all we were doing. We were isolated from our family. And I just look back at how good we got in those short periods of time of what we were doing, which was the fire and maneuver training that we were doing in the Army. And then there was a saying from someone that said, all the studying in your life, one firefight in combat will teach you more than all the study that you've done in your life getting ready for it. And that wasn't quite true, because all the intellectual study and rigor and preparation moving into the combat experiences I had really informed it and gave me much broader perspective. Because sometimes you only just know that little thing that you know, and no situation in combat, one war is very different from another. But the point was, I learned absolutely, I can think back to some very intense experiences I had in Iraq. And those were the most instructive periods of my life by far, because it was I was totally focused. Yeah. And obviously, a triathlon camp, we're not going to get you to that level of focus and memory, but it's the same kind of thing that we're shooting for. And I'm just so excited to do this camp, because you're an expert at this on your side. And I'm coming at it from not a triathlon coach, because I'm not a triathlon coach, although some people write me like I am, but a person who's totally interested in the sport from a storytelling perspective, from a business perspective, but a human interest. I love it because I'm fascinated by why people do it, why I used to do it. I joke that I'm a recovering triathlete because right now I'm not doing it. I have an injury in my hip I need to get taken care of. And I'm also full-time working on my business. And I'm kind of the person that if I can't do something full out, like when I wanted to go pro in triathlon, that's all I wanted to focus on. But if I'm an all or nothing kind of person, and probably I need to work on that. But,
that's another podcast.
Another podcast. Yeah. Issues. Right.
Yeah.
But, I'm fascinated by this concept of immersion. And one of the things that you hit on when you were talking about, you talked about athletes who had seen all of Bobby's videos, but now they're at the camp and they've listened to all of our podcasts and they're saying, well, now I really get it, and I'm going to go back and watch those videos. So talk about that dynamic between theory and then experience, and then going back to theory after experience. That I think beautiful sandwich between theory, application, and theory.
Was that a sandwich or a sandwich?
I think it's it's not a sandwich, it's a sandwich. But anyway.
Yeah, it's really neat to me to watch Bobby teach. You know, I've been exposed to him for about 8 years, I think. When I met Bobby when I first did my level 1 USA triathlon certification. And, you know, I knew right away that he really knew what he was talking about. He had a lot of experience and I enjoyed learning from him. And so people at the camp asked me how I got involved with Bobby. Like, oh, how did you get to be here coaching with Bobby? And, you know, the truth is I've just stalked him for 8 years, you know, and I keep showing up. And so while I don't really think of myself as having attended a camp per se, I attended, you know, I went to USA triathlon coaching certifications. I traveled to Colorado Springs. I flew out here at my own expense to meet with him in person, you know, and I did the same thing with Total Immersion and getting to know Terry. You know, I'm really blessed to be able to just send Terry or Bobby an email and hopefully get a reply within, you know, a short period of time. I look to both of them as mentors, but really it's because I've invested my time and my money and I've immersed myself in a learning experience. Nevertheless, when I leave that experience, I'm left with this feeling of, how am I going to remember that all? And so having a resource, you know, in Terry's case, Terry's an excellent writer, and his already produced DVDs of all the drills are an excellent resource for me to go back to and watch again after having listened to him and watched him teach and being able to teach with him watching me. And the same thing with Bobby. You know, I've been exposed to his drills. The first time, I think he just had 45 minutes with us, and it was rapid fire through all these drills, and I couldn't wait to go experience that again. So I sought him out. I was living in Colorado at the time, and every week Bobby had his skills and drills. And so I would drive an hour every week to meet him, you know, and there was a fee per session, and it, you know, it wasn't outrageously expensive, but it was more than a few bucks too. But it was totally... This
is back before Bobby was such a famous
yeah,
big deal.
He was a big deal in certain circles. But it was completely, I recognized the value of it. I would drive an hour down to Boulder and then an hour back. So 2-hour drive just to spend, you know, 45 minutes or an hour with Bobby and Marcy, getting exposed, you know, again, over and over. And I would take copious notes afterwards. So I can really appreciate the value of experiencing it one-on-one, having, you know, hands-on correction, individual attention. I can think that I'm doing something correctly, but, you know, even now here helping to coach at this camp, I still can't wait for my, you know, 10 minutes with Bobby to get some one-on-one video done.
Yeah. Well, and I think you hit on something is back when you were training with Bobby, you didn't have the video resources, and now
Correct.
Now you have the Run Transformation Library. Really, it's the most comprehensive, I think, one-stop run training, biomechanics, every kind of you know, thing you can ask for, and that allows you now to really solidify that learning.
Yep.
You might have bought the course and watched it, and Bobby's gotten so many emails, and I've gotten so many emails from people. I mean, we did a free webinar last night, and a guy emailed in and said, "Oh my goodness, that was amazing. I should have known this. I've been doing Ironmans 18 years, I've done 18 Ironmans. I've been doing it all my life. Wow, what would have been different if I had run into Bobby?" I mean, just gushing on a free webinar. And there was no video. It was just Bobby and I talking about running with slides.
Yeah.
But then you think that's the free stuff. Then the paid stuff, which is Run Transformation course, is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 10 hours of HD video of Bobby talking about biomechanics and demonstrations of every drill.
The drills, yeah.
Run training theory, and then, you know, basically teaching you how to create your own training plan, which at the end of the day, there's no off-the-shelf plan that works for everyone. It's got to be individualized to you based on your body type, your goals, and principles. And then finally, you know, the mental skill stuff. So Bobby has it all, but then there were people who needed or wanted that extra level of interaction, and they chose to come to this camp.
Right.
And they're just getting like out of this world in terms of their level of perception and understanding when it comes to running.
You know, and it's interesting. Yesterday we did a session on periodization and planning, and then Bobby led kind of a practical, you know, create, modify, update your own training plan. And so he led people through the scheduling assessment that he uses to coach athletes and had people answer them. And I walked around the room and was was looking over people's shoulders and helped them lay out some of the blocks and some of the training ideas. And while we didn't come up with a comprehensive, training plan that they could walk home with or deliver to an athlete in just a 45-minute period, talking to some of the individual people, some of them had their laptops open and they had their Training Peaks account out while Bobby was saying, I want you to go back and review this, and really sort of talking to them as if they were coaches, and many of them are. I would say at least a third of the people here coach in one way or another.
And the rest are self-coached, obviously.
And the rest are self-coached, yeah, or they have coaches. And one woman came with 6 sheets of paper printed out, and it was her training plan. It was all on a color-coded spreadsheet that her coach had prepared. And we were talking about it, and she said, I just really want to be able to have a more intelligent conversation with my coach. So it's not like she came here to replace her coach. She came to learn more information.
Or to sharpshooter, right?
Right. Yeah. She came to get more information so that she can have a more intelligent conversation with her coach when there's something on the plan that she doesn't understand or wants to shift. There's another fellow here who's a physician, and as a fellow, he's an ER physician.
Yeah,
and as a fellow,
it's intimidating to be around all these smart people. I'm just an ex-Army officer trying to make it.
Well, that's intimidating in its own way. But
yeah, well, if you make me upset, I know how to deal with it. But anyway, so.
As a fellow ER physician, I can appreciate how random his schedule is, and there aren't many people who can appreciate that unless you have experience doing shift work. And an ER physician is more bizarre than even just shift work because it's randomized shift work. I tell people, if you take a handful of darts, tack a calendar on the wall, and throw the darts at the calendar, that's my schedule for the month.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like.
Well, I know that, trying to schedule live events and podcasts with you, it's
right.
It's awesome.
So and some of us thrive on that sort of thing. Sometimes it's nice to have a regular sleeping schedule.
Well, just if you're listening to this and you're frustrated that Suzanne doesn't put out enough podcasts and live shows, I'll tell you how you can fix that. Is go buy Run Transformation or TI Academy from Triathlon Research. And then I'll be able to hopefully get her more regularly working, because that's my goal, is to get Suzanne full time, just thinking about triathlon and saying brilliant stuff for us. So,
well, I just want to finish.
That was just my shameless plug for you, Suzanne, because I
led you into that. I just want to finish that point about the other ER physician here. He has a coach, and he's obviously a very smart person. He showed me this software that he engineered that's just incredible. It's better than any patient management software that I've ever gotten my hands on. Really smart, really intelligent, knows his stuff. He's been to Kona, and he wasn't really picking my brain, but he was just expressing some frustrations that he's had personally with training. And I said, well, my experience as a triathlete and a physician, these are some of the strategies that I had to use when I was working a string of night shifts. And right now I'm coaching another ER physician, and she'll put her shifts in Training Peaks for me so I can schedule around those. And his eyes just grew like saucers. He says, I've never heard of that before. You're the first person first coach I've ever talked to who said anything like that I can move stuff around that significantly, not just moving the long run by one day, but really just sort of mishmashing the schedule so that it works with the rest of your life. And so I think people are here for a number of different reasons. And that's part of my point. The immersive experience, the opportunity to talk with other triathletes, for the attendees to talk with coaches, not necessarily to replace a coach or find a new coach, but just to get a new perspective and inform themselves better about what they're spending their time doing.
Yeah. Well, and that just kind of leads me into what you and I are planning together. You taking your feedback from having run a number of total immersion swim camps and been to Bobby's camp, and I think you've run some of your own tri camps. Is I'm one of those guys that I know how to put on a training event first class when the stakes are really high from my Army time, and I love planning them and resourcing them. And then even in the Army, I rarely did a lot of the work for the training event. As a commander, my job was to get the bullets to the range and to get the soldiers there and the transportation. And then I would let the really smart people, which were my sergeants, do the training. And then I just used to love watching it. And it was fun to, I guess that's my personality type carrying over to business is I have no interest in showing up at this camp and doing any coaching myself. And I will
Don't let Sam coach you.
Yeah, exactly. I will give a few talks at the camp, because what I would like to talk about at the camp, and we'll just run through for those listening who are interested in the the camp that we have coming up on with Mark Allen, is just run through my philosophy on the camp and what I envision it being, and then your philosophy is the one that I'm going to actually make execute it, what you think it is, and we might actually get into some disagreements about what you think you should be doing. But no, I mean we'll talk through it, because I think I just want to lay out the philosophy and the what we're trying to do, because I have had a lot of people, podcast listeners, have come up to me here and ask me about the camp and say they're interested and they want to learn more. So I just thought I'd kind of get that out there, because it is an opportunity for me to pay you and bring you in and let you deal with the people that are on our list who really want that top level of immersion and want to take things to the next level and take all the podcasts and the live events that they've been watching and lock it in. And then after the camp, and this is the really cool part, is I've got Endurance Films filming the camp live. Danny and Eric, I just can't wait to see Danny in front of a camera, filming it live, streaming it live for those who aren't at the live camp, and can't afford it or can't take the time to travel or whatever, can actually buy a week's worth of like Tri TV from us, where we're just going to have Danny on camera, Eric filming, making a ham out of it, and filming everything that you're doing and all the training that we're doing, so that people can experience it virtually, the next best thing. So
I picture Danny as like the Geraldo Rivera of triathlon. You know, I want to see him out there live in severe weather, and we may have to stage some things, you know, get some big hurricane fans and have people throwing buckets of water in front of it. Danny can be saying, "We are here live at Triathlon Research Training Camp." August
in Boulder with Danny. There could be some interesting weather. So we might actually just we might just call, you know, the weatherman or God and say, hey, we want a severe windstorm or something like that. But
send it on the way.
Yeah. So Danny and Eric will be filming it, but what we're going to be producing, and the reason I'm filming it, is so that people who go to the camp, you're going to be drinking from a fire hose of the best knowledge in the world of triathlon, and I know you're not going to absorb all of it. So what I wanted to do is create a very detailed video record of that camp, so that people can get that learning and watch it for however long after you need to. You need that. You need to be able to go back and watch, and you'll be able to see yourself on camera doing the drills and other things, and just say, wow, that was so much. I think I got 5 or 10% out of it, and let me spend the next year unpacking it, because you're watching it knowing you were there.
Right.
Which is a totally different experience.
Yeah. And I think by having things, I mean, I experience this every time I do a total immersion camp, you know, especially the coach training camps, where I have the opportunity to set up the camera and mic the coaches and get it on film, and then, you know, put it into our TI resources for the coaches and our students. But years later, you know, it's been 2 or 3 years since I've been doing coach trainings. I still go back and watch some videos of, you know, a specific talk that I remember Terry giving, or a specific way that Dave Cameron taught a specific skill. I still go back and watch those things. So it's sort of embedded in my memory as an experiential point in time. But to be able to reference that and go back and replay that memory, it's like having, you know, automatic video replay in my brain, except I just have to go find it on my hard drive. So
exactly. Well, and so let's just dive into. I've developed, and I always do things big, I've developed a 6-day camp, which I think is the longest camp I've seen out there on the market. But I've developed a 6-day camp from 24 to 29 August, a Sunday through a Friday, where we're bringing in Mark Allen, Terry Laughlin, the founder of Total Immersion. Bobby couldn't attend, sadly, due to his commitments with USA Triathlon, but he recommended to us Jay Johnson, who's a Nike national champion running coach, who's coached people into the Olympic trials, and is just phenomenal resource, like Bobby, on the biomechanics. And I like to call it building the running chassis, like building your body so that it's durable and you can run more efficiently. And he's huge on core strength and things like that. So we'll talk about it. But I'm bringing this whole crew together because I reckon that most triathletes don't need a camp for fitness. If you're motivated enough to pay for a camp, you're probably pretty disciplined and you're doing most of your workouts and you don't need fitness help. Now, there might be other triathletes who are lazy, but they're not going to pay for a camp anyway. So what I think a camper really wants, and I've spent the last 3 weeks on the phone with people who are very interested in the camp, and many of them have already signed up. Actually, we're already almost halfway to filling it up. And they all want help on... There's 3 main ways you can get better in triathlon. There's fitness, which most people do every week all the time. And then there's form, and mindset. And that's, to me, the power triangle of improvement in triathlon. And we're all strong in one area and weak in another. And I think my hunch is that most triathletes, especially the ones that want to come to this camp, are not weak on training, but are weak on their form, their efficiency in all three disciplines, and they're weak on their mindset.
Well, Simon Butterworth stopped by yesterday. He just waltzed on into the room and chatted with us for a few minutes. And Simon did a race, I think it was last weekend, and I believe it was a sprint triathlon. The week before that, you had done the podcast with Mark Allen and Terry and Bobby, or not a podcast, a webinar.
Webinar.
And Simon listened to that webinar, and he had a particular sticking point. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but one of the reasons that he tuned in, or one of his goals in watching or listening, it was because he had a sticking point in his 5K time. He hadn't taken off any time in his 5K time in several years, and he wanted to get back down to a 5K time in a sprint triathlon that he'd done several years ago. And I think he said he took 40 seconds off his 5K time after listening to a webinar. And so, these are the same guys that are going to be at the camp. If Simon Butterworth could do that at age, is he 68?
Oh, yeah. He's faster than most 20-year-olds. But
Right. If he can do that at age 68 after 1 hour of listening to a webinar with these same people, imagine what people are going to be able to do performance-wise and just satisfaction-wise after spending a week.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the main thing that we've found talking to people here is that mindset and the perception on efficiency. So what I want to do the first day of the camp is we'll bring everyone in around midday on Sunday. We're going to have a team house, which is going to be where we're going to cook meals for everyone. So meals are covered for the week because I want to save everyone that expense, but also use meals as teaching for nutrition. And we have professional triathlete Kim Schwabenbauer, episode 5, who is a registered dietitian and awesome pro triathlete who's going to be supervising the meal preparation. I think your sister will actually be chief cook and bottle washer. So we're going to have a coach's house where we're going to have optional but highly encouraged meals on breakfast and dinner, and then we'll pack out lunches. And then we're going to go to the Retul headquarters and training, a Retul Fit Center, where we're going to film all of our stuff for the week, which is awesome. They got a great conference room, big area for filming. But it's also going to be awesome because Retul is just a phenomenal company that's going to be running our cycling days. So the first day on Sunday, we'll meet at the Retul Center, and we're going to talk. I want to do 3 different lectures that you'll do, and I'm going to probably do one on the meaning of triathlon and history of sport. And you'll do a lecture on form, fitness, and then mindset. And we'll talk about what we'll cover that week in the camp. On form, we're really going to dive deep into that, learning people how to switch on while they're training and think and be conscious. And then we'll talk about fitness, not that we're going to do it at the camp, but how do you start thinking about form in your fitness, and how do you design workouts to incorporate form improvements? You're spending 10 hours a week training. You might as well think about form instead of just go to sleep while you're training, which most people are sleepwalking through their training. And then finally, we'll talk about mindset and what we're going to learn that week, especially on the Mark Allen day. So that's the first day. The second day, we're going to get up. Jay Johnson, the Nike running coach, is going to do a couple talks, one on running form and building that chassis, and talk about what we're going to do practically that afternoon. Because every day I wanted to have learning and then application. Then he's going to talk about, a second hour, he's going to talk about how to incorporate form into everything that you do as a runner, because there's a mindset shift that people need to make. Then we'll go out, we'll do a running event with Jay that afternoon, 2 hours, drills, core strengthening exercises, and he's going to show you what he has his runners do every day to become national champion runners, which is going to be awesome. And he's also going to have a couple of his runners on the field with us, helping us. So they're going to be demonstrating and helping. So small groups of 20, because there's a maximum of 40 people at the camp, and then we'll break into 2 groups. The other group is going to go to the Boulder Running Company. And we just saw yesterday, like, world champion marathoner Mark Platchis fitting a bunch of athletes. And I don't know if Mark will be that day, but he's trained an entire staff to pick running shoes, get this, not based on how it looks, but actually how they help you run, which is like a bike fit for runners. And they film you on a treadmill, they get behind you with an iPad, and then they show you in slow motion how you're running, how you're pronating, and then they pick a neutral shoe, one that helps you with pronation. Whether or not you have plantar fasciitis or other problems, they help you do that. So that's going to be an amazing day. And then that will be your afternoon with Jay Johnson. Tuesday, I just lined up with Retul, Crowe's bike fitter, will be teaching a class on bike fitting. So the guy who fits Craig Alexander, the 3-time Ironman world champion, will be doing the bike fitting training. Retul, because we're there the whole week, if you love their presentation and love what they do on bike fitting, you can certainly get a discounted bike fit with them. Like they're giving us a severe discount on the regular rate. I think it's almost 50% off. They're going to give the campers on a bike fit at the Retul headquarters with the people that train all the Retul people all over the world, including Crow's bike fitter. So it's a pretty cool value add for the campers. And on Wednesday, you've said before, I think brilliantly, that your form is your fit on the bike, right? If you don't have good form or fit, you're never going to have good form.
Right.
So we need to talk about how form and fit work together, why it's so important, especially for triathletes, even more so than road bikers, because you don't get out of the saddle. You're just there locked into your bike. And then what we'll talk about is form drills. Once you have your fit right, what can you do to make your cycling technique better? High cadence cycling versus low cadence and different things. And then we're going to go out that afternoon with these awesome Retul people. And yourself, you're a level 2 USA cycling coach, a crit racing coach. So we'll just be going out and doing technical rides rather than a huge workout. We're just going to go show people for an hour and a half what you can do on the bike to make cycling workouts interesting, because you can make them interesting.
Oh, yeah.
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 So if you want to throw anything in there, I know I just went on because we're trying to get all this in, but
yeah, that's okay. No, I love coaching bike stuff. I was actually a bike level 2 cycling coach before I finished my USAT triathlon certification, and my very first athletes were cyclists. And I love teaching bike form. I love talking to people about technique. And much like running and swimming, you can watch someone who's on a bicycle and tell how comfortable they are. Yeah. So fit is one thing. Experience, generally, by the time you've been cycling for a number of years, your form is probably pretty good. Your body figures it out. But there are ways that you can accelerate efficiency on the bike so that you're more comfortable and you get more out of your training, and so that the training you're doing.
Yeah. And then that, so that's the run and the cycling day. Midweek, you're going to be so full of knowledge that I'm going to try and make Wednesday a light day where we're going to get up. We'll do a quick lecture on, I think we'll do the nutrition lecture that day, and we'll also do a talk that day on how to incorporate form into fitness. But then I think people are just going to be raring to go, and we want to just go stretch our legs. So we'll do a lovely Boulder mountain ride, which I think is critical. If you're in Boulder, you might as well go up into the mountains and see it once.
Yeah.
and if you're worried about your fitness, if you're thinking about coming to this camp, we have a 75-year-old, a 72-year-old. Our age range really between 40 to 70. If you're fast, like there are fast people there, Kim Schwabenbauer, there will be pro triathletes who can take you on that rabbit group where you go out in front of everyone. But no matter what your ability level, there will be a group for you. So we're going to do a big group fitness ride into the mountains. And then I think on Wednesday night, and I'll double check to make sure it's still going, there's a pizza and beer run at the Boulder Running Company where you go run for like 5 or 6 miles, and then you just drink pizza drink beer and eat pizza. So I'm going to just make sure that that's still on for that night. If people, that's an optional thing, but it's a really cool event here in Boulder. And so that's the fitness day. The next day is the swim day. We're going up in complexity to the most complicated discipline because it's so unnatural. As Terry Laughlin likes to say, we're not aquatic creatures. And Terry Laughlin, the founder of Total Immersion, got him to come in for this camp. And a couple of the assistant coaches are also TI coaches. Yourself and Kim and Celeste St. Pierre are the 3 coaches. So we're going to have a full-on Total Immersion day where that morning Terry's going to talk about the energy budget and where triathlon swimmers should think about their swim in the context of swimming. He has this wonderful presentation he gives on the energy budget and how much incremental gains in your speed in swimming cost you energy-wise, so you can really plan strategically where swimming should fit in, how much energy you should expend. Should you focus on getting faster and more fit in swimming, or should you focus on getting more efficient? And speed will actually come when you become more efficient, but you're not out there slamming paddles and kickboards, but you're out there just working on form and becoming more efficient. And we'll talk about those choices that you can make as a triathlete. Then we're going to talk about the speed equation, which is after you become more efficient, how to dial in speed, like mathematically, And empirically, Terry's a very rational, empirical person when it comes to his training. And we'll also talk about form. And then more importantly, we go to the pool, and we just want to get everyone some one-on-one time with Terry. And while you're not having one-on-one time with Terry, you'll have one-on-one time with the other TI coaches. We'll rotate people through a swim set session at a local pool here in Boulder. That's going to be done. And then that night, Mark Allen's going to come in. And I think we're going to do the dinner either Thursday or Friday night. I got to survey the campers and figure out what works best for Mark. But we're going to do a full-on day of Mark teaching in the classroom of nature in Boulder. And what I've asked Mark to do is the first 5 days, we've really talked about how to become consciously competent, which is switch on your mind while you're training rather than sleepwalking. And on the day 6, I want to make that shift to unconscious competence, where you've got it all wired in your myelin in your brain, your competence around these disciplines. But during race day, we think way too little while we train and way too much while we race.
Yeah, that's
and what we're
great distinction.
What we're going to do in this camp is teach you how to think much more while you train and then switch your mind off while you race. And I'm going to ask Mark, if you haven't listened to the podcast or watched the live event about Mark, is go in and just dial in your mind being quiet.
Yeah. Well, that's what Simon said.
Yeah.
When he ran that 5K last weekend, I think he was doing 5-minute kilometers.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, he was running fast.
No, he was faster than that. But anyway, whatever the pace was, he was running way faster than he expected to see on his watch. But because he was able to calm his mind and go with the
not talk himself out of it.
Yeah,
right?
not talk himself out of it.
You're going to blow up. You're going to blow up, right?
Right. He kept looking down at his watch. He's like, I haven't run this pace in years.
Yeah.
In a race, and he took 40 seconds off. So yeah, the mindset is so important to allow yourself to perform to your best potential. Yeah.
So that day with Mark, what I've asked Mark to do is literally we're going to do an open water swim in the Boulder Reservoir. We're going to do we're also going to do a swim, a bike around town, and then we're going to do a run. And what I've asked Mark to do is we're going to do a full day, a lot of training, but it's not about go thrash yourself. It's about let's do a block and let's forget about our bodies and let's forget about our technique and just think about, or not even forget about our technique, because I don't know what Mark will recommend, but what can we do to quiet our minds?
Yeah.
So how can you train and really hit that flow state?
Yeah.
And what are some breathing exercises before you get in, breathing exercises while you're on the bike or while you're running or swimming. And Terry's going to be with us that whole day too. So Terry will also be swimming with everyone, which Terry just loves to swim with people. And like if you can go swim with Terry and you can sink swim next to him, he's like a 5-year-old. So he's so happy while he's swimming with people.
That alone is enough reason for me to show up, is to just get to swim with Terry in open water.
Oh, he loves it. And Terry's so good at inspiring people with his example. He's 65 and faster than he was, 30 years ago. But all these different things, we're going to put them all together, and I'm going to ask Mark to teach us practically how to quiet our minds. But then also I'm going to ask Mark while we're there to give us, he's going to stop at various points on the run route and the swim route, and same thing while we're swimming in the reservoir, is give us focal points, but also give us some cool stories about Boulder. This was where Mark was training with Dave Scott in the heyday of endurance sports in Boulder as the community was building up for getting give us a little bit of history. So that's going to be it. And then finally, we're going to have a book signing with Mark. He's going to give a speech that he normally charges corporations like 5 figures for, $10,000 plus, on the art of competition. He's going to sign his book. Everyone's going to get a limited edition, $120 copy of his book signed by him, which has special essays that he's not putting in the regular book. And he's only producing, I think, 600 of these total. And we already sold a couple hundred books of Mark's before it's even been printed and coming out in August. We've already sold a couple hundred books for Triathlon Research. I think it's going to be a hit in the tri community and in the sports community and high performance community and whatever area in life you're in. So that's a quick rundown of the camp. Suzanne, I'm so excited to have you running this. Thanks Triathlon Research for your support and your continued support, which allows me to fund these camps with Suzanne. And she's very expensive because she's a doctor and she's very high end. And my goal is to get Suzanne to quit her day job and just be a professional researcher and thinker for triathlon, because I think if she does that, the whole sport will be better. And if you've listened to anything she's done, I'm sure you'll agree. So that is our episode on camps, what camps can do for you, and what the Triathlon Research for Camp 24 to 29 June will do. And if you want to... 24 to 29 August. And if you want to get more information on that camp, it's Triathlon Research Camp.org. And that's going to be also, if you just go to the Triathlon Research site, there's ads all over triathlonresearch.org. There's ads all over the site for the camp. But we're going to create a special URL for that, triathlonresearchcamp.org. And just go in there. There's a camp application where really what I'm just trying to do, and I'm really glad I'm doing this. I'm talking to everyone on the phone, making sure that they're triathletes and that they have goals in the sport before we just let them pay for something that may or may not be the right fit for them. And the application, it's not a age group thing. It's not a performance thing. It's just a way for me to make sure this camp is right for you. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to be intimidated or think like, oh, you're all snobby or exclusive. We're not. We just really want to make sure that this camp is the right fit for you. And I can't get that unless I talk to you on the phone. Yeah. It's also a chance for you to ask me questions and, make sure that you're comfortable with what we're doing at the camp for you.
Yeah. I think if you're going to put the time and money invested into coming to the camp, that you deserve to have all your questions answered about what kind of camp it's going to be.
Yeah. And it is a big investment. It's not any more expensive per day than most triathlon camps. Usually triathlon camps are $300 to $500 per day. Mm-hmm. And we've got a very good value in there. It's not terribly expensive from that perspective, but it's a long camp, which means it's a significant time and money investment compared to a shorter 3-day triathlon camp. So we want to make sure that you're comfortable, and by talking to me and figuring out what we can do to help you specifically, make sure that your goals are going to be met, is just the reason we're having the time to schedule the calls to make sure this works for you. So thanks a lot, Suzanne, and we'll definitely do some more interviews soon, and looking forward to doing this camp with you.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, please go to iTunes.com and review Triathlon Research Radio so that you can help us share this great information with more triathletes and grow the sport.